Here you go, and the recording has begun. So welcome everyone to this talk by Spirit Guides, and they've spoken about choosing peace. I'm just looking at the title they gave me, which I don't remember very well, Choosing Peace in a Time of Turmoil. And I think that that should be a particularly interesting talk at this time of our lives with the lockdown that's happening. So without further ado, let's just start with a prayer, and then the guides will come through and speak to us. Great Spirit, we ask for your protection as we join with the world of spirit. We ask that you would help us to open our minds and our hearts and our lives to the information that comes through, so that it will benefit us and help us in our lives. And we ask that you will bless what we are doing here. Amen. So, we greet you once again, beloved friends, and we would say to you that as we draw towards you at this time, we bring with us all who are your spirit guides, all who are those who love you from the spirit world. At times like this, they gather in great numbers, bringing a great deal of love with them. And so we would say to you, while you may think that there is just one or perhaps just a few of you sitting in the room at this time connecting through this technology, we would dispute that and say there are many. All who are your spirit guides join you at this time, as well as those who love you from the world of spirit. Now, we have selected the topic of choosing peace in a time of turmoil, because since the last quarter of last year, the only choice available to any in your world has been a choice of peace or discord. And in whatever choices you may have made, the choices that you have made will have reflected your choice to move forward with peace, or your choice to become embroiled in turmoil. And it doesn't mean that you will always have chosen peace. But those of you who follow what is a spiritual path, who know to be led by your guides and their intuitive guidance to you, are recognizing that at this time you keep being drawn back to a place of peace. And that is important to recognize. Whilst there may be those of you who are surrounded by those you love within your family and your circle of friends who are finding it very difficult to choose peace, we would say to you, you can only make decisions for yourself. You can't make decisions for others. But in this time of change within your world, and we would say to you, as we have said before, this energy in your world at present time is an unprecedented energy. Never in the life of Mother Earth has the energy of change been so intense. And you may think to yourself, well, that seems strange because Mother Earth has gone through immense turmoil where everything within inside her bubbled up, and everything within inside Mother Earth needed to look towards what we would say is immense change for Mother Earth, because Mother Earth experienced these tumultuous changes of energy. But we would want to remind you that that tumultuous change, where Mother Earth had volcanic eruptions taking place all over her surface from within, was physical change, so that Mother Earth could actually adapt and will take on the form that she required in order to continue with her incarnation. But even those forces and energies pale in comparison to what is happening now within your earthly plane. We would say to you that at this time, you have come within your, let us call it, history of the humankind, to a point where you are being given the opportunity to shift gears, to change the world in which you live. And we would say by choosing peace, you will find that you can far more easily adapt to what is this powerful, powerful energy, these shifting energies which constantly shift. And if you try to understand that every choice that you make must be based on the ultimate choice of peace, then you will understand that you can ride the storm of all this turmoil and these unprecedented energies in a far more powerful way. Never in the history of mankind has peace given you the ability to work with your life and your world with such intense power. Peace and power now are one. And whilst in your world, power has often been equated with turmoil, anger, bitterness, and vicious fighting, we would say to you that that is not the power that will prevail through the next several years. What has been set now at this time as a result of these changes will set the tone for the next 1,000 years at least in the history of mankind. You are at the root of this powerful change now. And so by choosing peace, you will find yourself much more able to adapt. If you understand that peace will bring balance, it doesn't mean that you won't experience turmoil. You must. That is how you adapt. And emotionally, you are going up and down, experiencing disappointments, happiness. But we would say to you that all of this, if you work with the energy of peace, will enhance the positive aspects of your life. If you could imagine that financially and economically, everyone is in a place of discord at this present time. There is an uncertainty, there is a lack of knowledge about what is to come. But if you simply say to yourself, I will accept it, I will allow it, I will be peaceful about it, then you can see that even just that thought will help you to adapt to any change that comes and help you to understand that all is as it should be, because therein lies peace, knowing that all is as it should be. The greater plan of Great Spirit unfolds as it should. And you are very much a part of that plan, as is everyone else you know, and everyone on the earth plane at this present time. The leaders in your world, governmentally and within corporations, have been specifically selected for what is their response at this present time, because however they respond has repercussions in your world. And the repercussions that are taking place are required. Just as many of the leaders are causing at this time a great amount of irritation, frustration, and anger in the people who they live within the same countries or within the same companies, we would say to you that encourages those at the bottom to rise up. And if they will bring this uprising and this discord to bear, and they will, it is inevitable, it will create within your world bloodshed, fighting at tremendous levels. And whilst you may say, well, that's not good, we would say to you, it is good, because it isn't about the circumstances at the present time so much as it is about what must come, what must follow. And those of you who choose to be peaceful, not to become embroiled in the circumstances of discord and fighting and disharmony, those of you who choose peace will find that you can easily move through this portal, this doorway to the new portion of your life and to what will be your new world. If you look at very young children and babies, they are accepting of what is, and that brings to them a great deal more joy. It is far easier for them to be joyful because they feel they don't have to worry about everything. And we would say to you, worry is an immense disturber of peace. Fear is the most debilitating of all of your emotions. And it can only be dispelled by actively seeking peace. Some of you have asked the questions how you can help those who you love, who constantly turn to listening to the news, which at present time is certainly not very heartening and doesn't tend to bring peace. And we would say to you, you can't change the thoughts and opinions of others. You can only make that choice for yourself. But never forget that it is in watching your actions rather than listening to your words that most will learn from you. It is about the choices you have made and how others see them and perceive those choices and the effect of those choices. So can you help others to make a different choice? Well, to a certain extent, you can. Because in choosing peace, in choosing to step out of the turmoil, you will show that you have power over circumstances that are making others feel weak, feeble, and that make others live in fear. So we would say our best advice to each of you is to try to draw yourself constantly back to a place of balance and peace, because it is from that place of peace that people who watch you, people who may love you or even adversaries, will see that you have power, because at this present time there is no greater power than feeling the energy of peace. And we know it isn't easy. We know that this is a time of great disturbance in your world. And this is a time where what has taken place, what you call lockdown, took place as a direct result of fear. It was not for anything other than fear that these lockdowns happened. And it is fear that will continue to weave its way into the lives of many. But if you look at the what we would call the transition numbers, perhaps what you would call the amount of deaths that are taking place at this time, very few of them have very much to do with what you call a virus. almost all of them have everything to do with fear. Fear creates blockages within your mind. You know, when you are afraid, you become paralyzed. You are paralyzed to act, and you are paralyzed to think. You have all had dreams where it feels like you are running away from something you are afraid of, and it feels as though you are running through treacle. Well, fear has that effect. It has an effect of creating blockage. And we would say it creates for many the ideal opportunity to make the transition to return to spirit world. And as strange as that may seem to you, as much of an ending as it may appear to be, what you call death is definitely not an ending. We who speak to you at this time, all who are your spirit guides, and all who are those that love you from the spirit world, are anything but dead. We may not have a physical form, but we certainly are empowered as energy. Our energy does not change. Your energy, when you return to spirit world, is enhanced by the fact that you are no longer imprisoned by the physical. And in your physical world, there are many rules and laws that can, with only immense difficulty and knowledge, be overcome. But we would say to you, those who make the transition at this time often are making it simply because all of their systems are shutting down because of blockages and because the fear has made it impossible for a passageway to what we would call the flow of life, as you would call it in your earthly plane. So we would say to you, you need to treat fear with disdain. You need to say to yourself, if I am afraid of something happening, will it prevent it from happening? No. That is caution. That isn't fear. Fear is debilitating. It is all well and good to be cautious and to be thoughtful, but don't allow yourself to be dragged into fear. And what has been an interesting circumstance in this occasion of what you call a lockdown has been how easy it was for the fear to travel around your world at the speed of light. And if you listen to those who are not finding peace, you will hear fear in every conversation. All of you experience to some extent this fear, but we would strongly recommend that you try not to listen or become too involved with others who are fearful. Try not to attach yourself to the news, which is enhancing the fear. Try not to be concerned about these circumstances which at present time you cannot change, and rather look towards the changes which you can be making in anticipation of a beautiful new world which comes. All of you, every one of you, will experience significant changes in your life as a result of this time, as a result of how you respond to this time. And so we say to you, choose peace. We know that there are many questions that you have as to how you can deal with others, but we would say from a practical point, how can you change it? Well, we would say to you, you need to meditate as frequently as you can with the only intention at times of taking yourself to a place of peace. Listen to the guided meditations that you can follow. Just place yourself in a bubble and rise above the turmoil, knowing that you can find peace and that you will find peace in silence. And you can find peace and silence even in the midst of the most amazing noise and turmoil. So the practical aspect is to constantly remind yourself that your choice should be the choice of peace. That leads to wholeness, it leads to wellness, and it leads to being able to make informed decisions and intuitive decisions. Every one of you are being led to intense change in your life. And if you trust that you are led by your guides, you can hear the intuitive guidance only from a place of peace, not from a place of turmoil. So we think we have given you a great deal to think about. Are there perhaps any questions? Perhaps you can type your questions in the chat, and the Lady Susan will pass on any relevant questions to us at this time. But we would certainly say to you, remember that you can't choose for anyone else. We know that you would want to take them into the place where they find that they are peaceful, but we would say you can't choose that for anyone else. We are getting a question. This question says that Sinner van Rensburg, that of course a man, a South African, who is led by his guides, talks about massacres to come. And will this come to fruition? Well, yes, it will. There is an uprising now, and only by what in your world will be massacres and bloodshed will it bring about the change that is required. Because at present time, those in power have actually created what we would call circumstances of greedy power for themselves. And so it is a circumstance where it will require uprising from individuals, and individuals at the bottom of the pyramid will rise in such a way that there is bloodshed. And it doesn't matter because it is part of the plan. We know that that will make you fearful, but it is possible for you to actually create a new reality, a new world for yourself, and try to avoid what is the opportunity to become involved in differences, communicating your differences in words, or getting to the point where it is necessary to actually become embroiled in physical fights. That happens only from a place where you are in turmoil, discord, and not from a place of peace. If you are acting from a place of peace, then you will say, well, they don't understand, they don't think differently, their perception is different from mine, and I must accept that. All right, there are questions about the Black Lives Matter movement. Well, that again is an uprising of a sort. And we would say there will be many such uprisings. There are uprisings about farmers, there are uprisings about inequality in every way. And that is simply helping from the bottom of the pyramid to try to bring about the change, because now you have all effectively become imprisoned, and that breaking out of that imprisonment will require uprising. The beautiful changes, we have been asked to speak of the beautiful changes that take place. And we would say to you, there is the potential here, and we see it coming, of a new order within your world. Will there be peace within your world? No. But there will be pockets of peace that will be beautiful to see and beautiful to become a part of. And we would say to you, you are human, you will have differences, but having gone through this time, those of you who are spiritually inclined and have an understanding that your view is not the only view, your perspective is not the only way to look at things. You are learning more and more through this time that others are at different levels of understanding. But there will certainly be a creation of what we would call sharing and caring in amongst communities. There will be a new building of communities that rely on each other rather than on a greater force of government. And there will be harmony in these communities. There will be a more equitable way of dealing with differences. And that is certainly something that many of you are already considering, creating these communities, creating these spaces where healing and peace becomes a central point. When will you start seeing the positive changes? Well, you should already have begun to see them in the form of design and thought and creativity. All of you are beginning to think differently. All of you are beginning to think more along the lines of trying to help others rather than just yourself. None of you are who you were at the end of last year. Not one of you. All of you are changing. So the changes are coming about, and you will be allowed to create the spaces, whether it be a space within your home or a bigger space that will actually encourage this beautiful community, this sense of harmony and peace. Yes, the superpowers in government like the United States and China, there must be an engagement. It is inevitable that what will collapse, though, as opposed to being a war that is fought openly with weapons, there will be a great deal of war that is fought economically, which must and will collapse the financial structures you know of now. So it is important that whilst there is an interim period of rebuilding, once that has taken place, that you all try to encourage communities where you become reliant on each other, particularly for support and food and that sort of thing. You don't have to go out and suddenly buy enough that'll last you for the next 20 years. That isn't what we are talking of. But the economic system as you know it can no longer continue to function as it has. This has brought about, there have been several economic, let us say, fallouts over the last 40, 50 years. But now this one will cause something that will completely disrupt what is your economic system. And there will be new systems being rebuilt. And it is interesting because if you look over the last 20 years, there has already been a move towards creating something that is not based on something physical. And that is important because that economic system, that financial system, will be the system which thrives and continues, but other systems are likely to collapse. How does one make provision for the economic fallout? We would say to you, build communities that you can rely on. Begin to create the habit of growing at least some of your own food, because it is important that you can share those kind of things with others as the world redistributes what is its power base. That is an important aspect at this time. We think we have answered quite a few questions. We don't know how fully we have answered them, but we have given you some sort of impression of what is to come. What we would say for each of you, find within yourself what is your attribute of caring for community, and in some way begin to create a community that you would love to have. This is a beautiful time to actually step into something new that you can create that will be beautiful for you and for your children. And it is important that you actually try to create it now at a level that you can step into what is a space of happiness and peace. And again, we say to you, it doesn't mean that there will be total and complete harmony and peace. Of course not. But if you have a community where you feel that you are protecting and caring for each other, not because you are fearful of an attack from the outside, but because you are happy and content and peaceful from the inside of this community. It must be about lighting the light from within the community, making that shine brightly, connecting with other communities. So we would say to you, it is a beautiful time of community. Look towards connecting yourself with communities that you appreciate. And we would say to you, those communities don't have to be actual physical communities. They will in some cases, but they can also be communities that are created technologically around the world, where you align yourself with others, not out of fear. That is such an important lesson at this time. You mustn't be aligning yourself with a group of others because you are fearful of attack. You must be aligning yourself with a group of others because you want to embrace and thrive in an element of happiness and peace. All right. So we think that we have given you a great deal to think about. We will leave you at this time until the next week, when we will speak of other things. If you have questions, please share them with our media, and we will try to address the ones that are relevant to the entire group. We leave you with a reminder that every choice you make must be a choice based on peace from within. You must feel that the choice you make brings peace into your life. And if that means discarding those who bring turmoil, then so be it. That is perhaps an important lesson for all of you to learn. And so we leave you with our great and unconditional love for all of you, perfect creations that you are of great spirit. We live in love.